Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's webinar. This is the first in the Partners in Success series. I'm Ruth. I'll be the host for tonight's event. In a few minutes, we'll meet the presenters for tonight. They'll introduce themselves and tell you more about what's going to be happening. As we get started this evening, you might want to try and find the chat panel. That's what we're going to be using tonight. We won't be using the Q&A. We'll be using the chat panel. At the bottom of your WebEx screen, if you move a cursor down there, you might see a floating toolbar. And there's a chat bubble. If you click on that, your chat panel will open at the right. And that's where you can send out chats to the group, questions to the presenters, comments that you'd like to share. We do ask that you choose all participants so that everyone on tonight's webinar can see what's going on. So if you're interested in participating in the chat, let's try that now. In the drop-down in the chat panel, choose all participants. You may need to keep going. Not all attendees, not all panelists, all participants. Drop down and just give a greeting. Say, hi, maybe your name and where you are tonight. All right. Okay, so we're getting some locations. We've got some geographic diversity going on here, so thank you for doing that. And again, that's how we'll be using the chat panel tonight with all participants as the drop-down option. There will be audio for tonight's event. We recommend that you try to reconnect. At the top of your WebEx console, you can see Communicate as one of the options. If you look under there, there's a chance for you to try and reconnect. This is being recorded, so if you do lose audio and can't reconnect, just know that you can watch the recording at a later date, and the audio will be there. Okay, I think we're going to get started with the event. I'm going to pass it on over to one of your presenters for tonight. David, over to you.
Hi, Ruth. Thanks so much for hosting tonight and for getting us taken care of. We're going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. Vicki, would you start for us?
Certainly. Hello and good evening. My name is Vicki Evans, and I am currently the Lufkin ISD Gear Up Director. Gear Up is a federal grant that we have. But just a little more background, I spent 20 years as an elementary teacher, 15 years as a middle school principal, and then I've been in the Gear Up program for 10 years. And so for all of you that are good at math, you realize I'm, hopefully you're looking at my picture and say, oh my gosh, she doesn't look as old as she is. So, but we are so happy that you're joining us tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Erin Kay. I'm the Lufkin High School Science Instructional Coach.
And I'm David Willis. I am one of Lufkin High School science teachers. I currently teach physics, and I'm also a Texas Instruments regional instructor with T-Cubed, and support a lot of the use of TI in our district as people have questions and concerns. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with a little more about us.
So we are Lufkin. We are a one high school, one middle school town. We have about 2,100 students at the high school. 78% of our population is economically disadvantaged. And the breakdown on the demographics is about 41% Hispanic, 29% African American, and 25% white.
A little bit about a history of Lufkin ISD with Texas Instruments. We started our partnership with our Gear Up grant in 2012, and then since then we've had multi-year rollout of the implementation of the Inspire and the Navigator equipment. And so at the current time, we're in full implementation in all math and science classrooms, grades 6 through 8. And we have some partial implementations in grades 3 through 5. And that implementation looks like complete sets of 30 classroom sets of the Inspire calculators and a Navigator in each classroom. And that is, once again, it's grades 6 through 12, all math and science classes.
All right. And what we found as we started using the Texas Instruments technology is that the Inspire handheld is so much more than just a calculator. It's a powerful analysis tool. It's a powerful data collection tool. It allows you to run laboratory simulations electronically, and with the Navigator system with the hats and the access points, it turns into an even more. It gives an even greater opportunity for student engagement, and it's really transformed the way that that many of us teach in our classrooms. It offers a lot of additional engagement for a few different reasons. Number one, it provides the automatic engagement for students of being electronic that just has more appeal often than a paper and a pencil. And it also allows, with the Navigator, it really allows teachers to connect with students, with all students. And I want to emphasize that on the next slide. What you can see here is one of our elementary teachers actually highlighting some data that was collected by the students in the classroom, and she's having a discussion with them about that force data and what that means. And the students just really loved that because that was something that they had actually collected and participated in. The Navigator system allows for really meaningful in-class assessment because it allows you to send questions to students, whereas the way that I used to do that, I love teaching with questions. And the way that I used to do that is I would ask the question into the classroom, and some students would respond, some would not, and I would try to prompt responses by calling on different students and try to hit everybody at some point during the classroom. Well, what you can see here is this is a screenshot of where we sent a question to a student, and then they have a box to respond in, and the handheld, the TI Inspire handheld actually has an alphabetic keyboard at the bottom, and the students can type their responses. And so I can actually see and check their responses as they're inputting them, or at the end I can display those on a screen and we can discuss them. But what this does is it lets me see, are all of my students engaging? And a lot of times they're more willing to because of this. And also it gives a greater accountability from me. I can see if someone's not, and I can either, I can try and approach them individually, or I can use my rapport with them to try and say, well, so-and-so, how do you feel about that? And so those additional, you can do pre-assessments, you can do post-assessments with quizzes, and you can do genuine in-progress formative assessments where you can see what all the students are learning, not just the 2 or 3 that quickly shout out the right answer. And so that allows for a really powerful piece. A lot of times, this is what our classrooms can look like now. We've got this is actually some students at a technology fair where they were displaying some of the technology that they work with in a materials tester. Over here, we have some students doing some lab work where they're doing some data collection and analysis. The same thing here. This is again in one of our elementary classes, doing where the 5th grade students are conducting a lab that they designed the steps for, given some basic parameters. And here we have some students. It looks like that they are either analyzing some lab information or taking a post-assessment. This slide is probably my favorite slide in the entire presentation, because I am a math and science person. I'm a science teacher, and this just shows so many of the possibilities that happen with the Inspire. Here you can see some data that we've collected where a student was selecting which points she would actually like to analyze and see graphed and which ones she would like to omit. Here you can see some analysis of some collected data that someone was doing, and there's actually the graph of it in the upper right. This is an example of what you might see as a in-progress formative assessment, or as a pre-assessment from yesterday's material, or a post-assessment quiz type question. That's what this was. It was an energy quiz. And this is where we actually threw a ball through the air and tracked it, and then had students, and what one could do is have students create a parent function and a dilation of that in order to try and match the curve with the graph, and actually then generate an equation for that. And so there's lots of math and science connections. Very engaging, very powerful way to use the technology.
We also had the opportunity to work in some summer programs as we were implementing and developing lessons for the Inspire and the TI handhelds. We started out with small groups of students, and we either completed the pre-done TI lessons, we piloted small lessons or lessons under development, or our own in-house lessons that were under development in this small group supportive environment. And what that allowed was some fabulous professional development for our teachers in that safe and supportive way. And it showed students and modeled for students that it was okay not to have all the answers, and to make mistakes and try again and persevere and go through that productive struggle. One of the ways that financially we worked through that was to be able to schedule these summer camps during our summer school hours. And this provided the ability for us to provide them free breakfast and lunch, and also round trip transportation to remove any barriers. We were fortunate enough to be able to start with high school and then expand this to elementary students. And that allowed the high school students that completed the camp the year before to come back and serve as a mentor and do some peer learning and training with the elementary students. And at the end of the week, we actually did a showcase for every stakeholder and parents. You can see in the top left image, the gentleman that's kneeling down talking to those two students is a retired engineer from Lufkin Industries. And he wanted to know what his grandchildren, what these young people are going to be up and coming and doing. And we got a lot of positive feedback from the community on what we were doing with students and how early students were able to find success with some of the unknowns that this technology was able to provide.
So as the Gear Up director, my main question was this guiding question: how do I, as an administrator, support teachers? Because as administrators, we all know how important it is to support our teachers. And sometimes that decision is really the recognition that we need to teach differently. So our goal in everyone's, no, go back, David. Our goal really was to increase student engagement in order to increase student participation. And so I saw that so many of our students really just disappeared in a classroom. They got hide so easily. And so the question I asked myself was, if we're going to teach differently through this technology, what is it going to look like? So, David, could you go back? So my question really was about how do we get students engaged? And as I watched students and what they were doing and how we were capturing their attention, this is what I saw. And I know that's what you see too. That technology that is really where they were driven. The question then became, which technology do we use? And in talking with all of our stakeholders, we came up with some non-negotiables that were very crucial to us as we were trying to decide how we wanted to spend this money. Number one really was that we wanted one-to-one access every day. Our students had access to computers, but they were through laptop carts and they were through labs. And it certainly wasn't a one-to-one access every day, and they felt like that was crucial. The second thing is that it needed to be affordable. And we found that sometimes laptops and tablets didn't quite fit that bill to have a one-to-one in affordability. Next, we wanted it to have a long-lasting life cycle and be something that we could use for quite a few years without it being outdated. Next, we wanted to make sure that it was easy to learn to operate. Then we wanted to make sure that it was something, then this was really, really critical to us, that it was something that was going to make teachers more effective in what they did every single day. We wanted it to be handheld, and that was just from watching students with their cell phones. We wanted it to have some compatibility with other products that teachers were using, like probes in science classes. We wanted to make sure it was cross-curricular, so that it maybe was a piece of technology that could be used by not only math and science classes, but by English and language arts classes or technology classes as well, which is robotics. We wanted to make sure that there was tech support. That had been a problem for us in the past, that sometimes we got technology that really our district couldn't support, and the people that we were purchasing it from had little or no tech support. And so teachers often just would not use it. And then professional development that lasted more than just a day. So that's a whole lot of non-negotiables, and that list came from our teachers. And so as we researched, we felt like that the Inspire and the Navigator fit all of these criteria. So the next step, after we finally decided what technology that we wanted to use, came the critical buy-in. Because we all have been there where technology has been purchased and it just sits in a closet somewhere, not being used for different reasons. So we knew the buy-in piece had to be critical. And so one of the first things we heard was, this will only work with my smart kids. So Eric Batten was our Texas Instruments representative, and so I decided to put Texas Instruments to the test. I said, I want you to come and then do a 45-minute lesson with students that are the lowest in a class of where their performance is really at the students we had. And in 45 minutes, I want you to prove that they can actually turn this technology on and interact with the presenter. And I'm going to bring in my teachers that I know are my naysayers. And I know if any of you are administrators, you know what I'm talking about. When I talk about the bell cows, the ones that really are the ones that drive everything. And oftentimes they're not on board with you. And so I knew what they were saying, and I thought, we're going to see how this goes. I had no idea how it would turn out, but pleasantly surprised that the TI coach was able to have every single student engaged, being able to interact with the technology and actually go through a whole lesson. The students were helping the teachers because the teachers had a handheld as well, and the students were helping the teachers through that lesson. And so that took away that that notion that this technology would only work with smart kids.
So the next thing that we were concerned and we thought we'd hear, and we did, was that I'm too old to learn new technology. I'm on my way out. I'm going to do what I've always done. I come to work every day. I get the results that I need. And it's about meeting people where they are. And so you have those that are eager and hungry and ready. And then you have the old resistors that are going to just hold out on you and get to retirement or wait till the next best thing comes along and they don't have to learn it. But if you meet them where they are, we have found that there was a lot of great success with that. And we were able to take them in baby steps, and we needed to do that. And one way that I did that oftentimes was I took something and I hid a small piece of something that they were used to using, a small piece of technology just went missing for the day, and they needed to use something. And once they found out how supportive and comfortable that it could be to use the new thing, they were hooked. And if that was the only thing that they used for the rest of the year, that planted a seed and made an impact in the experience for that child, so that the next year they could go on and build on that technology and those experiences in the classroom.
At this point, I get to tell a story about myself. I was skeptical also. I don't know if I was one of those cows that Vicki talked about or not, but the question comes up: is this something I have to do? And the first time that Vicki shared with us about her passion and her excitement for the Texas Instruments technology and the Inspire in our classroom, I'm embarrassed to say it, but I was all but rude to her and said, "So are you asking us if we want this, or are you telling us that we're getting it?" And she told me later she was glad that I asked that out loud in the room while she was there rather than later when she wasn't. And she so wisely said to me, "I'm presenting you with an opportunity. If you don't want it, then I'm not going to force it on you, but I'm giving you an opportunity, and opportunities don't come along every day. I've seen the value of this, and I think you will too." And at that point, I did not understand the value, but I was interested in an opportunity. And so Vicki had gotten my attention, and I gave it a chance, and it turned out to be something that I now enjoy, love, and am working to as a regional coach to share with other people.
So to understand buy-in, we really have to first realize why there's resistance. And so one of the things is loss of control. That's kind of where David, what David alluded to is this something that's being done to me, or is this something that is going to be done with me? So really thinking about how you invite others into the planning process, giving them ownership. And a perfect example is what we did with Lufkin High School. We brought in all the stakeholders, from the teachers, the administrators, the tech department, everywhere. And because we wanted the questions to be asked in my presence, as David, and not in the parking lot after the meeting. So letting everybody know that they do have some control in what was planning and what was being done. And that was probably about a 6-month process that we went through that with them. The next thing is uncertainty. It's kind of like, walking off a cliff blindfolded, and maybe that's what they did for me that first year. But it's that creating that certainty of process with some clear, simple steps and timetables and expectations is, I really felt like Erin did an amazing job in the science department doing that. I want to tell you a little bit about that.
So basically, we had to figure out a way. We have about 23 teachers in the science department alone. And remember, we're running about the same in math, and they were implemented in both content areas. But the simplest way was that I could break it down was to create this process that was in a simple enough steps and timetables and expectations that weren't negotiable. But there was a gray sliding scale area. So if teacher A was more tech savvy and moving a little quicker, then the expectation was you still push through that. But if I'm teacher B and I'm struggling, I'm allowed to differentiate that in the classroom for my students. And as an instructional coach, some of those, my peers are at times my students. And so I could differentiate what the expectation was, but the expectation was that we were going to use it and constantly move forward to grow for our students.
The next piece of resistance really deals with surprises, and nobody likes surprises. So decisions that are imposed on people suddenly and are with really no time to get used to the idea or prepare are really, I generally resisted. So it's always easier to say no than yes. So leaders should kind of avoid the temptation to craft these changes in secret, and then suddenly announce them at once. We've probably all been in that situation where you thought all summer about how you're going to teach something, and you get there a week before school starts, and some administrator says, hey, guess what we're going to be doing this year? And so, those kind of things are really important as you're planning on an implementation process, is that you take your time, and there'll always be surprises in implementation, but you certainly don't want the event to be a surprise.
And Vicki, we have the surprises alone for teachers coming at the last minute is one thing that we can avoid, but there are always those surprises that we can't avoid. For example, we at the high school experienced a surprise when I set these clear little morsels that the expectation is, okay, we're going to turn it on and take attendance with this. We're going to get everybody logged in, or we're going to get a quick poll, and 23 teachers are trying to do this all first period, and we don't have the we had some technical issues with our Wi-Fi that didn't support it, and we had to get some district tech support in. So if we're able to eliminate the surprises for teachers that we know they don't like, they're a little more likely to work with you and not throw their hands up in frustration when those surprises that are beyond our control or our realm do pop up.
And the next piece of resistance really is about loss of faith, especially for those people that have been around for a while and they may be a little bit defensive about change. When change involves a big shift in strategic direction, the people responsible for the previous direction really may have that perception that they may have been wrong, or I'm not doing something right. I'm not meeting your expectations. So helping people maintain their dignity by celebrating the elements that they had in the past that were successful and are worth honoring, but still making it clear that, hey, the world has changed and we need to embrace that. It makes it a little bit easier to let go and move on. So while you do have to set expectations and parameters, just remember to do it in a caring way so that you don't take any bodies with you as you go. Next is resistance, and that with competence. Can I really do it? And I can tell you, I'll full disclosure, they laugh at me. I won't even turn one of these things on. I know what good instruction looks like, and I know what student engagement looks like, but I am scared to death of this of the equipment. But so making sure that they don't feel stupid as they go through this change. They may be worried that their skills really aren't good enough when it comes to technology. And what if the kids catch on faster than I do? And so this is where leaders really need to over-invest in structural reassurance, providing as much information as you can, as much training, as much education, as much mentoring, whatever support systems that you can put into place. We were lucky enough with our grant funds that we chose to do the TI coaching. And that has been a huge influence in overcoming the competence barrier. And it's a live coaching model, and we're lucky enough to have David as now as a TQ instructor. And I'm going to let him kind of tell you a little bit about how that makes a difference in the classroom.
Yeah, thank you. The live coaching model is such an amazing piece and is so helpful. One of the reasons that I was initially skeptical when Vicki first introduced the idea was that I could remember, even though I hadn't been in education very many years at the time, I guess I'd still probably 10 or 15, I could remember different technologies that had come in the door. We had 1 or 2 days of professional development. It seemed like a wonderful idea, but as soon as the professional development was over, we forgot how to use it. It kind of got fuzzy. You couldn't quite remember exactly how you were going to do that activity. And so you ended up putting it off, not using it this year and not using it next year, and then you forgot about it. And the live coaching model so helped get through that implementation dip that happens so often, that downward struggle that happens right after the initial excitement of a training. When it provided two things that I think are equally balanced in their importance, both are extremely important. It provided support in that when the coach was there, I knew that the coach would be there, and if I forgot how to do something, the coach would say, hey, remember you want to start class first, or if you look to the left, you'll see the menu button, and that's going to be where you'll look for that. And so I knew that I had that support, and that I had the growth mindset. I wasn't afraid to fail and struggle and sort of rumble through that, but I knew that I had the resources I needed. So I knew I had that support. But also, and this is so key for administrators, is when the coach came, it provided accountability for my use of the technology, because we all know that you don't continue to grow in things and you don't remember how to use things if you don't use them on a regular basis. Well, when I had the calendar and knew that the coach was going to be coming, I knew that I needed to be prepared to use the technology on that day. Because our administrators had let us know, hey, these are the days the coaches are coming, and we expect them to be in your classroom helping you use the technology, not, walking around wondering where your technology is and why you don't have it. And so it provided a lot of accountability. When I saw that the coach was coming next week, I said, well, gosh, let's get a lesson together that I want to try. And, or I emailed the coach and said, hey, we're in this part of our curriculum. What could we do? And the coaches would get back with me, and we would generate a lesson or an activity. And so it was such an assistance in overcoming that implementation struggle. It really gave us a way to break through that barrier with that support, with that accountability, and then the support to make you feel like that was going to be workable for you.
And of course, teachers are always going to worry about, is this going to be more work for me? Because change is indeed more work in the beginning, but I think David will be able to share some thoughts about the rewards that you can get through this timely assessment that the Navigator provides for you that can really lead to higher achievement levels and help them understand how to get some of that time back.
Absolutely. And we talked earlier about the use of those assessment tools in class, formative assessments, and that's sort of a minimal work. That doesn't take a lot to get done once you get some training with it. But there's some other, building labs, building activities that do take more work. My question or my idea and thought is, though, anytime you add something worthwhile, it takes more work. We recently implemented a new lab activity in one of our in one of our classes that wasn't centered on this technology. But guess what? It took a lot of work. And so anytime that you add something new to your curriculum, it's going to take work. This is something, though, that earns you that time back with then some of the post-assessment grading that it can do for you, and also then the just the engagement and the increase in learning that you get, I think, is more than enough compensation for some of the work you have to do on the front end to work your way through. Also, there are, if you go to the website education.ti.com, most of you may be familiar with it already, but as you go to that, there are some tabs at the top which will allow you to look at activities, and there are all kinds of activities that are ready-made that then you can just adapt for your classroom. There's also other resources. If you're using Probeware from Vernier, then Vernier has some wonderful resources for labs on how to use those probes. So there are lots of resources available that can really cut down on the front end investment of time if if teachers are worried about what that's going to look like.
And as we talk about more work on the front end, I think it's important to also acknowledge the hard work of the change in teachers by allowing them to focus exclusively on it. So while we were implementing that, if they didn't get their 2 peer walkthroughs in the 9 weeks done, but they were making changes in that, there's some gray area there. So if they're really focusing on that, you need to acknowledge those steps and allow them some time for exclusivity. The other thing is you can add extra perks for people who are participating or for everyone and try to keep that culture together. And so we did lots of things during lunch. We would bring in food. We'd have dessert bars just to bring us all together because we were all sharing in that same frustration and growing together in the same way. So I think that's really important.
So we were very intentional about which technology was the best fit for us. We were very intentional about creating an understanding of resistance so that we would know how to support teachers through it. So then it was time to implement. And I really like to think of implementation as a ripple effect. And if you have a ripple in a stream, the first thing you have to do is have a pebble, right, and to go into it. And I think the pebble really is who is going to embrace this initiative from the top. It is crucial that you have your top administrators supporting the initiative. Whether they understand it completely or not is not important, but they are on your side and help you as you navigate through that process. So these 2 people that you see on your slide are actually, the gentleman in the picture at the time was the high school principal. He is now the deputy superintendent over curriculum and instruction. And then the young lady in the bottom is one of our associate principal. And they were at our trainings. They were totally always supportive. So we've had district support, campus support, as well as instructional coach support or whatever, maybe instructional leaders, whatever your structure is. It's important that we're all on the same page and we're all meeting and talking and supporting this movement. And then what we call it. It's a movement. You start the movement. And oftentimes, not everybody is on board, but you spend your time not trying to bring people on board, but supporting the people that are on board. And so we were really careful to do that with our teachers. It was amazing how that ripple began to happen once they knew that the administration was on board, that there were teachers on board, and then it started that movement so that everybody eventually was on board, including students and parents who would certainly want to demand equal opportunities. And there was a time that we had some students question, why are they using that technology in their classroom but we're not using it in our classroom. So that is how the ripple happens and the implementation really gets started. And then, especially from a grant, perspective, and even from an administrator's perspective, like I said before, I've seen things that have been purchased with grant money or even district money, and those initiatives got pushed into a closet after somebody left. And that was certainly not what we wanted to see happen, because we could see it changing that engagement in our classrooms. We had to think about ways to make sure that it was sustainable after, for me especially, after Gear Up went away and after any additional funding went away. And we really saw that through, I promise you, if I walked in any of those classrooms today and told those teachers, I'm sorry that you were taking the TI technology away from you, I think we would have a riot. And that's what tells me that it's institutionalized for us now through the and the implementation is in place. Almost to the point now, to the point now that the district has taken on some of the financial responsibilities as far as expanding the use of it into our elementary schools. So now we're all in all of, I've already told you we were in all the classrooms, but now we are actually into 5 elementary schools that have a kit with a classroom set and a navigator, and our elementary teachers are using it and having great success. And then we knew we need to grow our leaders, because we mentioned that we were having the TI coaches. So Texas Instruments has a program where you can actually train teacher leaders. It's a teacher called Teacher Leader Cadre, and we invested in these 4 people to go through the training, and 3 of them have become teacher TQ instructors, but they are now leading the way on our campuses and with those elementary schools and actually training our teachers. And they're just another set of experts that guide our staff, even when there's not a coach on board. The district also has continued to support summer camps with the use of this technology, and sending teachers to the TCUBE conference to keep them motivated and inspired by what they see.
That's right. Vicki, can you just add one thing about the TLC training program that Texas Instruments offers? If you are implementing, like Vicki said, she wanted to see this technology and the use of it outlive the grant cycle. And so, again, our district was wise enough in its vision and had some good partnership from TI and said, hey, send these people to this TLC program. And we received a lot of training in technology, but we also received training in delivering of in-service and implementation of the technology in different classrooms, how to serve as a leader, how to work through those things. And that was an incredible investment for us. And now Lori and Bridget and I, 3 of the ones pictured, are TCUBE's regional instructors. And so, we've gotten emails from people while we've been away at conferences that say, hey, this has gone wrong. What do I need to do? And we email back, or we, when we're in town, which is most of the time, we go and support them. That was something else the district did, is they provided 1 math teacher and 1 science teacher with an extra conference period to be able to support the use of the technology both on our campus and at surrounding campuses as well.
Absolutely, David. The last thing that I'd like to share is the sustainability piece and the ripple effect that Vicki was talking about. Sustainability, you have to be very intentional and continue to grow the teachers and the leaders, because sustainability cannot become stagnancy. And I think that's what's so fabulous about the 4 people that you're seeing is they are constantly looking for new ways to implement this technology wherever they can. Lori Cummings on the left is actually teaching a newcomer ESL class paired up with her sheltered IPC course, and she uses the technology in both. And we're seeing huge gains in their language because of the technology. She has them code. Coding is not language specific, it's zeros and ones. And she piloted that last year, and she had great success, and it's even better this year. And the lady on the right is a math teacher. She'll come down and go, hey, are there any lessons that you want to try to incorporate something in somewhere? Is there a gap? And I said, hey, we'd like to do something with the IPC students and the periodic table. And she went and programmed and came back to me with the rover jumping all over to different elements, and there was a game that they created. So you can be very intentional with and have the vision for this sustainability, but you need to keep planting the seeds and allowing those teachers to grow so it doesn't become stagnant.
So at this time, we'd love, there hasn't been anything on the chat, so wanted to know if there is any questions that anybody has, and we'll try our best to answer them for you guys. So does that mean we did a great job, or?
We were amazing.
Any questions?
As we're waiting for questions to come up in the chat, we'll just say thank you again. There's your picture. There's what you talked about, and part of tonight was going to include a drawing for complimentary registration to this year's T-Cube conference. You heard our panelists talk about the value of having teachers and administrators involved in this kind of networking. And tonight's winner, a random drawing for all the teachers who are present tonight. Tonight's winner is Kenneth Brown. Got to be sure Kenneth is here. All right. Kenneth Brown, congratulations. I'm hoping that we'll hear a big woo from Kenneth in the chat window. I mean, a virtual woo. So congratulations to Kenneth for being the winner of that. Another thing we want to be sure and share with you is you can get a certificate of attendance for tonight's webinar. There it is on a slide. We'll also send it out via the chat. It will also come to you in email. In the next couple of days, you'll get an email follow-up about tonight's webinar that will have information about the documents available. That would be the slides that the panelists shared with us, and the link to this opportunity to create your certificate of attendance. Okay, still keeping an eye on the chat window, see if we have any questions there. The next in the series of the Partners in Success webinars will be on February 20th. Okay, if you want to just keep that in mind. I'm not sure if it's posted yet. This is brand new information that we're putting together. I'm not sure if it's posted for registrations. So check back a little bit later, but you might want to go ahead and mark that, another success story about how it's working, how teachers and their district are working with the TI people to get things going in their schools. In the meantime, in the series of webinars on this coming Tuesday, January 28th, featuring 2 T-Cubed instructors, SAT Math Test Success, so they'll be talking about that. Find out more about webinars. All right. Saw a question come up. All right, so looking in the chat window, Michelle says, I know that you spoke about resistance. Teachers are about ready to retire. And resistant, she's a technology coach. How can you get them to buy in? So back to you folks.
Michelle, I would probably, try to get if you can get a relationship with them, that would probably be the best way to try to do that. But if it doesn't come around and you don't have someone from your administration that may make that conversation happen, then I would really just tell you to invest your time in those that are working on it. So you're not going to bat 1,000. We know that. So spend your time helping those that are making a difference, and maybe that little pressure from other teachers to see, saying how well their students are doing would help. But just don't give up. Keep making yourself available, but don't beat yourself up if it doesn't happen. It's okay.
One strategy that we've seen work in some schools is offering some of those teachers the opportunity to maybe, rather than have someone come in and work in their class, let these teachers, reluctant or resistant teachers, give them the opportunity to visit another class where it's being successful. Maybe somebody at the same stage of their career who's made some changes. Just let them go have a look. Offer that up to them.
Ruth, something that I would add is do what Vicki did for me and offer them an opportunity. If they're a chemistry teacher, look on the website and find a chemistry activity, or if you have some probeware that you think they would enjoy, either contact them or just walk by their room and say, hey, I found something that I think you would really enjoy. Is there a time that we could look at it? Or can I bring it by and look at it with you? But try to offer an opportunity. But like Vicki said, absolutely, if that is not going to happen, then absolutely invest in spend your energy on those who would like to be involved instead of those maybe who won't.
And Michelle, another thing is you could also try to offer an opportunity to co-teach an activity or lesson, part of it without the technology their way and part of it with your way. And as you learn to work together and bridge that gap, sometimes it eases the pressure in moving over into the tech side.
Great. Thank you for those responses, and thank you for the questions. Keeping an eye on the chat window, see if we have any others coming in. So on the screen now, we see where you can go to look for upcoming webinars, opportunities to register for ones that have been posted. Just keep checking with it. You can also visit the same site to find ones that have already taken place and watch them. They're called the on-demand webinars. Just like tonight's is going to be recorded, all the other webinars are recorded and you have a chance to visit them. If it's some keystrokes you want to watch somebody do, you can pause it, start it up again when you watch them during the replay. Also, there'll be a survey coming your way, and the feedback is appreciated. Okay, keeping an eye out there. I'm not seeing any questions come in. I'll just put your pictures back up, and I'll say a great big thank you for our panelists tonight. Thank you for our people in the background that are making this work, not just in the Lufkin district, but in many other places as well, and getting us here for this webinar tonight. Thank you to everybody.